Today I'm talking to Casey Davis. She's a recent graduate of our BEd Foundation Phase program, and she is currently a grade 1 teacher at Liebenberg Primary School. So hi, Casey.
Hi, Elise. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time. I'm going to start with our first question. Why did you decide to study education at Stellenbosch, and why become a teacher?
Okay, that question is actually asked so much. Why do you decide to become a teacher? And I think there's just so many answers that there can be out there, but it's also, I think, something that I just felt like since school. I felt that I just wanted to be involved in education and all the things in our world, whether it be the successes in our world or the issues that we're having. I just feel that everything boils down to education at the end of the day, the knowledge we have, the actions that we make. So I decided to become a teacher and just become involved in the schooling aspect and in early education and just working with, like they say, our future generation. And Stellenbosch University, it was never actually a question. I just knew that that's where I wanted to be. It was so much stress whether I would get in, because it's all I really wanted, where I wanted to go. So my mom actually studied at Stellenbosch University as well. So it felt quite amazing for me that I would be able to be at the same campus that she was, walk down the same streets that she walked down when she was there many years ago. Yeah. So that was one aspect that drew me, but also just researching universities. And in student leadership, and it just felt like there would be many different, how can I say, like different types of things that I would be able to get involved in, other than just my academic studies, but in other situations as well.
Cool. And from your experience, what was some of the biggest challenges that you had as an education student?
So I think studying education, one of my biggest issues I'm actually going to say is that I feel that sometimes people look down on education students and the education faculty, like, what are we doing there? What are we doing all day? Are we just making little ABC pictures for our classroom and things like that? And I can understand where people come from when they think that, comparing it to a medical degree or a law degree or anything. But at the end of the day, we are who are working with the children, the skills to one day become doctors or lawyers and so forth. So I think that was one challenge for me constantly at the department. And then other than that, just tasks sometimes I would say was a bit challenging, especially when we had to make apparatus for our class. I remember crying one day having to cut for hours and hours, laminating and cutting. But truth be told, I've actually been using it in my classroom this year. So at the end of the day, I think it's just was all worth it. All the hard work.
All the hard work pays off. So now you're in your first year of teaching now. So far, what has your experience been like as a first-time teacher?
So since the day I walked into Stellenbosch University, I remember being in lecture hall 1029 for the first time. And I could already then envision like my classroom and what it was going to be like to be a teacher. And what I was picturing then versus now is obviously completely different. Because there was definitely my little fantasy scenarios. But I would say that I still really enjoy being at school, and it has been amazing every day, even throughout all the challenges. I think there will definitely always be challenges no matter what situation we're in. So there are hard days, but there's also good days, and especially when you work with children and they start to realize things or achieve a goal or achieve a task, it is just absolutely so rewarding.
And now that you have had some experience, what do you think are some of the most important attributes that a teacher should have in a classroom, or just in general?
Yes, so I think a lot of people when that's asked, a lot of people put out the passion and the enthusiasm, but I think by now that is definitely a given. And I have been thinking about it a lot because sometimes school can be quite challenging, and I've thought, what would be the best qualities for me to have for the group of learners that I have this year? So every day that I walk into my class, and sometimes it's more than once in a day, I think to myself, PEEA, which stands for patience, empathy, engaging, and adaptability. So I think to myself every day, firstly, have patience with these children. They are just trying, and they are just also here to learn. And then have empathy, because we all come from different backgrounds. The children's come from different reasons for their behavior. So I always try and have like empathy in my mind. And then engaging, especially that could be seen as quite challenging, or when the classes are engaging and when they can be actively involved in the classroom as well. And then my main one is adaptability. And I think that is definitely for teachers across the globe at the moment, just with this pandemic as well, having to be adaptable every day. And you can have a plan, you can have your lesson plan, you can have your resources, you can have everything, but one thing can happen and you have to be so quick on your feet to think of something, to be adaptable, to survive till the bell rings at the end of the day. So I'd say those are my 4 biggest qualities that I think teachers or anyone thinking about teaching should think about.
Definitely. And I think adaptability is probably, all of them are quite important, obviously, but what works for one student doesn't necessarily work for the other one. So you have to really manage that. And
yes.
Can be quite tricky, I think.
Be adaptable what's happening in the situation, whether it's the fireball all of a sudden rings for a drill and you have to go out and your whole lesson is ruined, you have to come back and the kids are all over the show. Just be adaptable in the moment, on your feet.
On your feet. Thinking on your feet is probably one very important thing to do. Okay, then I think we're at our last question. And I want to ask you, why would you encourage other people to study education, and then also at Stellenbosch specifically?
Okay. I think anybody who's thinking about studying education and think, is this something that they really want to go into? Because being a teacher is very challenging. It does have a lot of ups, but it also does have its very difficult moments. So I think the teacher you'd want to be. And then why study teaching at Stellenbosch University? I think Stellenbosch University truly has so much to offer. Like I was saying earlier, not just academically, there was just so many different opportunities. And I'll never forget in welcoming week how I was standing there and someone who was speaking said, your university experience will only be what you make of it. You can choose to only focus on academics, and that's fine, and you'll get your degree. Or you can choose to become involved in so many different things, whether it be becoming involved in sports, or in res, or in PSOs, or in committees, or in student leadership, or in societies. There's just so many options, I think, at Stellenbosch University to really be engaged in different areas of the university. Also, I think Stellenbosch University is very beautiful. I think it has a very beautiful campus. I think we were very lucky as students just to be able to quickly walk from class to class, even in between classes, quickly run to the NLC, grab a coffee. And Stellenbosch University has very affordable and good tasting coffee. So I definitely think somebody wondering whether or not they should study at Stellenbosch University, they should just know that there could be lots of good coffee, but also lots of different opportunities for involvement and in growth and for learning, which I think for me was the biggest standout.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and good luck with the rest of the term for teaching your grade 1s.
Thank you so much.